It's an NFL Monday, which means we've got everything locked down for you, including the Chiefs are whining. How much whining can you get out of the Chiefs? The Colts lost every 50-50 ball. Hey, you guys that don't like Dak Prescott, you can smooch the old backside. I'm a Dak Prescott fan after watching that entire thing. But don't forget, my Hoosiers got blasted. The guy that blasted them, Bruce Pearl, is going to join us. It's a mammoth Monday here. Don't at me. Starts right now. This morning, it is a beautiful day here in Naples, Florida. We told you for the last couple of weeks, we said, look, who's going to win the Heisman? I am a practical man. I am a man of the people. I am a man that pays attention. See, here's my thing. When I tell you something, it is because I have studied this. Now, it's my job. Your job is to go make America great again in however you do it. My job is to educate the masses in terms of deportes and politics and pop culture and social media and social justice and everything else. So when I tell you Jayden Daniels is going to win the Heisman and your immediate reaction is, no way, man. Well, I've thought about it. I've paid attention. You know, most kids when they were little had a stack of nudie books this high, at least according to Vacation with Chevy Chase. Not me. You know, I had stacks of Sports Illustrated. I can tell you right now, Tim Foley, the shortstop of the Montreal Expos, used to date Playboy's Playmate of the Year. I can tell you, then they got divorced. I can tell you all kinds of stupid things about sports. I don't know anything else but sports. But when I tell you that we are going to have a Heisman Trophy winner named Jayden Daniels, and you scoff at me, then I must slap you around when it becomes Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels earned this, man. Let me go through some stuff. Dude completed 72% of his passes, rushed for 3,800 yards, threw 40 touchdown passes, combined for 50 touchdowns total, 4 interceptions. Team was 9-3. See, here's the deal. In the wacky, crazy world of fandom, 9-3 is a bad record. In the world of Hall of Fame coaches, winning 3 for every 1 loss, I don't know. That's 4 games. You've won 3 out of 4. That's 75% of your games. It's pretty good. I get that the haves and the have-nots have really expanded. So 9-3 is somewhere, okay for a major program, particularly one with the resources that LSU has. But Jayden Daniels was phenomenal. Look, Bo Nix was really good. Michael Penix, they probably could have and maybe should have given it to. Marvin Harrison didn't have a shot. Caleb Williams, just babied himself. Gone. But here's the deal with the Heisman, and tell me what you think. You're a young kid. You're a young kid. You're a college football player. You're watching college football every Saturday. And what do you see? The Heisman house. What do you see? RG3 with commercials. Tebow, Mayfield, Eddie George is in there. Charles Woodson's rolling. And now the guy on the right in this picture, Jayden Daniels, gets to make those commercials. Now, you think that doesn't matter because you're older and you're like, well, that doesn't matter. No. That really matters. That's a big deal. In fact, I would argue that's become as big a deal as winning the Heisman. What? Look, I know a bunch of white guys in New York City giving an award. It's historical. I get it. I do. I swear. But in the modern world we live in, I would argue that kids, they're not young adults, want to be in those commercials, want to enhance their brand, their reach, their clout, whatever the word is. They want to enhance it, and they want to do it, and they want to take it off. And that is what winning the Heisman does. They don't have a runner-up house. You see what I'm saying? It's not like we've got runner-up house here where everybody that came in second in the Heisman lives in the house. Nobody would care. So Jayden Daniels wins, but Bo Nix, Michael Penix gets to play for a national championship. Michael Penix gets to play in the biggest of the big games and prove everyone wrong. Marvin Harrison, I would imagine, probably not going to play in a bowl game, probably not going to come back to Ohio State. It'd be awesome if he did. It would be tremendous if he did. I think it would be great. I hope he does. But he's pretty much done. Bo Nix done. Bo Nix been in college since I was. I think he and his dad played against us at Indiana, even though I didn't play football. But I got to tell you, Michael Penix. Michael Penix can go out there and change some minds. Michael Penix can go out there and win a national championship. And I got to tell you, it's pretty good. But again, other guy in the picture was Brian Kelly. And I'm exhausted. I've always been exhausted at the disdain for Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is one of the most disliked guys that there is, and I don't get it. All Brian Kelly does is win. And all Brian Kelly does is bring people like Jayden Daniels and up their game. Remember, Jayden Daniels was the guy, and we've seen the videos all over the place, that played for Herm Edwards at Arizona State. And Herm Edwards' culture was so bad that when Jayden Daniels announced his transfer, his own teammates broke into his locker, filmed it, and talked a bunch of ish about it. That's how bad the culture of Herm Edwards was. Now, a lot of you don't understand what I'm saying, but that's all right. You will. Most of you do. The culture at Arizona State is, I'm guessing, one of the many reasons why Jayden Daniels got the hell out of there and went to somewhere where they actually had a football program that doesn't break into other people's lockers. I'll tell you a story. Indiana University, we had locks on this little bottom part of our locker. We had old school lock, open locker, and then underneath, I never knew my combination. In 4 years, I never opened it. I never used a lock. But Jayden Daniels, apparently, you got to lock your stuff at Arizona State. So good for Jayden Daniels. He made a bunch of clowns that couldn't play dead at Arizona State that are now on their third coach, or at least their second coach. He made them look like idiots. He did what he does. Brian Kelly did what he does. And next thing you know, you got a Heisman Trophy. 72% completion percentage. Accounted for 50 touchdowns. 5-0. 10 rushing, 40 passing, 4 interceptions, 3,812 yards, 4,946 total yards, over 1,000 yards rushing, had the world's first 300-yard passing, 200-yard rushing game. He had a good weekend. But you know who had a better weekend? Say it with me. Shohei Ohtani. News came down, much to the chagrin of Nick here, because Nick was breaking news on our show. I didn't go with it because, you know what? That whole flight tracker thing that everybody gets on, boy, my face is too close. Anyway, that whole flight tracker thing is nuts. That thing is crazy. I don't want to hear about flight tracker. All right, but here's the deal. So the world was telling me, I'm seeing if this works going back a little bit. The world is telling me, hey, Double D, Ohtani's going to the Toronto Blue Jays. He is? Hey, Double D, I'm hearing the Cubs. Hey, Double D. Yeah. By that time, I wanted to take a nap. Flight Tracker said he's going to the Blue Jays. Flight Tracker also said Rick Barnes was coming to Indiana. Anyway, we got rid of Flight Tracker also said Urban Meyer was going to Michigan State. Flight Tracker? No. No. Money. Money talks, Bolshevik walks, and we all know this. So where does he go? The Dodgers. Now, it's interesting because Ohtani was talking about, I want to be more private. I want to be more private. So Ohtani, this is unbelievable. 10 years, $700 million. Shall I break it down for you? Shall I? Would you like me to? Well, look at our staff on crack. $70 million a year, $5.83 million a month, Jen. $5.83 million a month. $1.45 million a week, $207,000 a day. $8,630 an hour. That's more than my divorce attorney. $143 a minute, and every second in this contract, Shohei Ohtani gets $2.39. Look at those numbers again. Now, look, I'm all for guys getting, this is stupid. This is just stupid money. This is ridiculous. Even in LA, this is ridiculous. Now, come on here, peeps. You're telling me that anybody in the baseball world, now I know the answer, you get paid what somebody's willing to pay. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking from a more philosophical view of the world. This is insane. Now, I get it. You're going to tell me Tom Cruise makes such and such for a movie, then he gets points on the back end. All right. I understand the entertainment industry. I do. Everybody that you see on a camera, including myself, that's getting paid a buck is overpaid. But come on, the dude isn't even going to pitch. Maybe never again. The dude's never played in a playoff game. But I got to tell you, I'm guessing somehow, some way, and I know this to be true, this enhances the Dodgers franchise like no other. And I'm closing my eyes because it just gives me gas. I don't know if you know this, big Japanese population in LA. The media are now, these guys are apparently, many of them, the Japanese media, are now trying to figure out how to rent or own in the LA area because it is going to be 24/7. There is a massive difference playing for the Dodgers or playing for the Angels. Massive difference. The Dodgers are iconic. The Dodgers are great. The Dodgers are original. The Dodgers are a team that everybody stops and watches, no matter if it's Joe Ferguson in right or Mookie Betts in right. Doesn't matter. Now you add this to it. Holy cow. I mean, now you're talking about a franchise that has just elevated. Look, even that uniform of the Angels means nothing. That means nothing. That's like your Little League uniform that you wore, and you're like, oh, who am I on? Oh, the Angels. Who am I on? Oh, I'm on the Dodgers. Who am I on? I'm on the Cubs. I'm on the Yankees this year. I'm on the Red Sox this year. Oh, man, I'm on the Angels. Even with Ohtani, and even with frickin' Trout, they were no good. And I don't want to hear about Trout, how they're treating him bad. They're paying him $33 million a year. Ain't nobody making $33 million a year getting treated bad. So just stop it, stupid, with that. I heard that the other day. Oh, man, he's being treated poorly. Is he really? Is he really? We'll get to the NFL here in a minute. I don't think he's being treated poorly. I think Trout's just fine. I'm sad that my Cubs didn't get Ohtani. It's not my money. You know, I had people tell me, well, you should be glad now the Cubs go out and get a bunch of players. No. You don't understand. It's not my money. It's Ricketts' money. It's not my money. I mean, it's my money. I'd be like, hey, I'm not giving a guy $700 million, but I would keep $700 million and you can keep the franchise. That's how I would look at it. But good for Ohtani. Hey, did you see this? Brittney Griner is now a hero. Yeah, she's a hero now. Brittney Griner is partnering with Disney and ESPN for projects to share her story about Russian imprisonment. Yeah, they're going to talk about different things. And, one of the things, now I will say this. I know we're all supposed to bash ESPN, but I'm not going to do it. I do think ESPN, when they put together things like 30 for 30, are pretty good. Now, I would assume this is going to be pretty good. Now, the one thing that ESPN, and people don't really realize this, where the diversity thing and firing older guys and layoffs of what they consider older guys making too much money, one of the things that has really hurt at ESPN is the production of sporting events. Like, if I sit with my guy Bart Fox or Scott Johnson, they're like, man, this is so bad. Well, I think it's the same thing with some of these productions. But I will say this, going back in history, ESPN has been outstanding in the 30 for 30 realm and telling a story and telling a really interesting and good story. I don't know if Brittney Griner is an interesting and good story, and I'm sure I'm supposed to bash her. I'm not going to bash it. It's not her fault at all that what's-his-face decided, Biden, that she, a lesbian, African-American WNBA player, is more important than our military vets being held in the same spot. He can't get them out, but he somehow, some way got her out. It's not her fault. It's not her fault that Biden and others decided to trade her for the minister of doom, the doctor of death, Dr. Evil, the world's most hunted killer. It's not her fault. It ain't her fault. She's just living in the post-George Floyd era where politicians, particularly white politicians, are scared to death to offend anybody, particularly an African-American lesbian. Woo! A couple of years ago, if there was anything more powerful than an African-American lesbian, you tell me. Man, oh man, the African-American lesbian. She covers every box. If that's kind of a dude, though. Anyway, I digress. Seems like a nice lady. She's an idiot for bringing weed. She got what she deserved for a while, and then it got stupid, and she should have been out. But damn, let's have more. Let's celebrate more criminals. George Floyd is like a hero. All these guys are like heroes. Let's celebrate criminals that go overseas and act like idiots. Yay, rah, go fight, win. All right, a little NFL for you. I'm going to start. I know I don't see it here, but I got to talk about it. The beloved Colts. See, I'm watching the beloved Colts. And the beloved Colts are like that basketball team that is just getting beat to every loose ball, is just getting out hustled. But you think they're hustling. Look, I never ever say, hey, look, an NFL player isn't trying. I say about NBA players. I say it about NBA players all the time. Like, damn, they're going to try in the third quarter. No, they're going to try in the fourth quarter. Colts looked like the team that me and you, we're going for a loose ball. You got it. I don't. You're like, what the hell? Are they going to get everyone? Well, the answer was yes. Teddy Karras and that offensive front for the Cincinnati Bengals just dominated. I'm going to give you a number here. One of the reasons I thought to bet the Colts was this. I thought personally that the Colts would make this Browning kid, Jake Browning, look like the backup that he is. I'm going to give you a stat here. Browning is throwing 3 games. He's completing damn near 80% of his passes, 79.3. Now, that is the best completion percentage, listen to this, wait for it, in NFL history through 3 career starts. Now, I'm with you on that. Hey, look, they can put a stat up for anything. They can put a stat. It don't matter. They can find the stat. Dakich is the first white man to host a show wearing a purple sweater with an Indiana sign over his right shoulder. All right. I get it. I do. But still, I expected him in game 3 with the Colts defense all jazzed up from playing pretty well. And they did get a pick 6. 18 to 24, 275 yards. And the Colts never got a handle on the game. Yeah, they got it tied. They did. They got it tied. But what happened? See, here's what you look at in sports. Write this down. What you look at in sports is when things are tough, what happens? Now, things are tough first play of the game. Things are tough first drive of the game. What happened first drive of the game? Cincinnati Bengals went right down the field and scored, set the tone. It's 14-0. Colts came back, got the pick 6, all that. You think, okay, maybe. No. What happened when it got tough? Second half, right down the field and scored. Second half, 28-14 before you could take a dump and eat your popcorn and drink a beer. It was 28-14, and the feel was this bad boy is O-V-A. Over. Now, we all think the Colts, at least here in Indianapolis, have a decent rushing game. Total rushing yards yesterday, 46. Offensive line couldn't block nobody. Next thing you know, the game was over. Colts are still a 7 seed, apparently, and at 7-6 with the easiest schedule in the NFL, they still have hope. Down with dope, up with hope. But that was putrid. You got a fourth string backup quarterback that kicks your ass, and he does it in such a way that, like the Indiana game, if the game had gone on, Colts weren't coming back. They just weren't coming back. 7th year of roster building by our beloved Chris Ballard, blown out by a 4th-year practice squad quarterback. All right. Enough about the Colts, but it did make me sad. There is one human being alive that will never get over the Ravens and the Rams game. He is the Sack Man. The Sack Man, a.k.a. Sack Attack, is America's greatest sports gambler. Sack Man sent me his picks yesterday. Among the picks was, listen for it, Rams +7. Actually, it was Rams +7.5. The other one of the other picks, Rams money line. I had to give that a double look. I had to under eye it. I had to side eye that one. And next thing you know, whoa, the Rams. Here they go. Whoa, the Rams. Whoa, what? Whoa, wow, wow. And then it happened. And then it happened, ladies and gentlemen, to the point where you kind of, sort of knew when it went to overtime that it was going to happen. You know, John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. John Harbaugh, I think, is the only special teams coach in NFL history to go from being a special teams coach to a head coach in the NFL. So what does that mean? Well, that means I'm going to believe that, I don't know, Ravens special teams are going to be pretty good. Did I think they would run a punt back? Nobody kick returns. Nobody punt returns touchdowns. It doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't happen. And next thing you know, it happened. But kudos to the sack man. Now, this one will take some getting over. It'll take us all a little time to get over this because nobody in America, nobody had the Rams on the money line. Now, we split. We won the 7.5, but the Rams were plus 300 on the money line. That, ladies and gentlemen, would have been sweet. And kudos to the sack man for giving it to us. Are the Lions a fraud? Are the Lions headed in a direction that they don't want to be headed? He even said, he being Dan Campbell, look, if you're going to get beat by the Bears, you may not be a playoff team. Well, the Lions moved to 9-4. They've lost 2 of their last 3. They hung on last week against New Orleans after getting a big lead, but the Lions got whooped by the Bears. I'm watching this game. That was one of the games that they showed here, and I'm watching this game going, wow. If you did not know that Justin Fields was under siege in Chicago, you would have thought Justin Fields was one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe the top 5. That's how good I thought he was. Look, he went to 19-33. He threw for 223, which is okay, but he was also the leading rusher. And it's one of those deals. You remember when you played sandlot football and the Donnie Ross of the world, the big, strong guy who could run, he kind of dominated everything. Like if you need him to throw it, he could throw it a mile. If you needed him to catch it, he went out for a pass. If he needed to run, he would get you the yards. That's what it felt like watching Justin Fields yesterday. It was very weird. It was very weird because you know how good you have to be in the NFL to be able to do that? You know how good you have to be just so much better than everybody else that you're playing against in the NFL? Like he looked faster. His arm was stronger. He was smarter. And it's one of those deals where you go, wow, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm stunned by this whole deal. I really am. And at the end of the day, that's what Justin Fields looked like to me. He just looked like a guy that was better than everybody else, period. And he was. I mean, he just simply was. Bryce Young is not. Man, Bryce Young, he just looks bad. And you know what? That whole operation just looks awful. They're 1-12. Carolina's sitting there with the number 1 pick. They're 1-12. They gave away a number 1 pick, all in an effort to get Bryce Young. Bryce Young, look, in an era where the NFL, you go about 70-75%, 13-36, 213 yards, or 137 yards, not even 213, 137 yards. I mean, are you crazy? I mean, are you insane? Guy did nothing, no touchdowns, no interceptions, might as well not have even been there. It's really kind of sad for the kid because I'll say this, I think Bryce Young's a nice kid. They just made a massive, massive mistake. They made a massive mistake with Frank Reich as the coach. They did not help him. And their leading receiver is? Remember Adam Thielen? Adam Thielen from 100 years ago when he was pretty good at Minnesota, but guess what? That was 100 years ago. I feel bad for Bryce Young. I never really feel bad for professional athletes. I don't, unless they get in some legal situation that was not of their doing. But I feel bad for Bryce Young. I feel like Bryce Young is just getting screwed out of a career. Now, I could be dead wrong. Maybe Bryce Young just isn't that good. Hey, maybe not. But damn, you're talking about an inept team. You're talking about a team that has absolutely nothing going. Got a decent running game, ran for 200 yards, but they were never in that game. And it's just sad to watch. I don't know that I've ever seen the first pick in the draft, and I'm sure I'm wrong. I guess maybe Trubisky. But I don't think I've ever seen was he the first pick? I don't know. But I don't think I've ever seen the first pick in the draft struggle like this guy. Speaking of first picks in the draft who struggled, Baker Mayfield. See, this is the thing that drives you nuts about Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield just bounces around, it'll play bad, and then all of a sudden, Baker Mayfield will start Baker Mayfield feeling it. They were up 9, they went down, and next thing you know, Baker Mayfield started boom, 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 getting all energy, getting all, you know what? I'm going to stick a flag in the middle of the stadium energy. And next thing you know, they win. And I got to tell you, it gives me gas. It makes me gassy. I'm not sure why. I'm not. But there's something about Baker Mayfield that I like, and there's a lot that I don't. And I'm not sure what all of it is. But I'm watching that game yesterday, and they get the ball back, and I'm like, you know what? They're going to go down and score. Of course, I mean, I'm telling you this because, well, I had the Falcons to win. That one hurt. That one actually hurt our feelings. And yes, we have feelings. That one pierced our soul. That one got in here. You know what I mean? That one's like a night of steak and red wine, and you go to sleep and you got esophagitis and it's coming up and you're just feeling like hell. Happened to me one time. It was tacos. And it wasn't wine, it was Diet Dr. Pepper. And I ended up going to the hospital swearing that I had a heart attack. I told my wife, I go, I got to go. She's like, what? I go, I'm having a heart attack. I go to the hospital. Doctor says, hey, what'd you eat? I go, I ate tacos. He goes, what'd you drink? I had Diet Dr. Pepper. He goes, what'd you do? I said, I chopped down a pine tree. He goes, you got esophagitis. Drink this. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, drink this. It was Benadryl and Maalox. If you ever have esophagitis, meaning it's all coming up here, hiatal hernia, combine Benadryl and Maalox. True story. I went there also another time, drove myself, told my wife, look, I think I got this esophagitis thing. It feels like a heart attack. I'll drive myself to the hospital. Spent the night in the hospital. What are you going to do? That's what it was when the Falcons got beat. It is esophagitis, hiatal hernia, reflux. You know what I'm talking about, you old guys. All right. Joe Flacco, speaking of old guys, is 38 years old. So Joe Flacco, a couple weeks ago, sitting there on the couch, sweet as you please, minding his own business, trying to tell people that he's really not from Delaware because I don't want to be associated with Joe Biden. I swear to God, that's what happened. Or I'm making it up. I can't tell which one. Anyway, so Flacco gets off the couch into the starting lineup of the Cleveland Browns and starts dealing. He starts dealing, and what he's doing is he's dealing against what was a few weeks ago the hottest team in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Are you noticing a trend here? Are you noticing a little bit of a trend? The AFC South yesterday went back to being the AFC South. I mean, they did. What do you want me to tell you? But anyway, so Flacco is just dealing. Now, here's the interesting part of this. You remember the $300 million? The $300 million that they paid, they being the Browns, to Deshaun Watson to win them football games. Well, guess what? Guess what? No, I'm asking you. Guess what? I was told, and I saw this Flacco $500,000 with a bunch of incentives. It's pretty good work if you can get it off the couch. But so Flacco goes 26 of 45, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns. What is the first pick in the draft? Trevor Lawrence do? He throws 3 picks. It's interesting to me. People so quickly want to anoint certain quarterbacks, and people so quickly want to get rid of certain quarterbacks. I live in an era of Jim Plunkett. First pick in the draft, Heisman Trophy winner, absolute bust early, floats around the league, gets another shot with the Oakland Raiders, wins a couple Super Bowls, and is MVP in one of them. See, that's what I see. I always think this, and particularly with modern medicine, these dudes are in such great shape. You can't tell me that if a guy could sling it enough, and a guy's a good guy, and a guy's in shape enough, and blah, 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 that some of these veterans couldn't be out playing some of these other guys. Now, I always said this about Deshaun Watson, and Indy fans, you will agree with me. I always said this. I always said, look, fellas, Deshaun Watson's overrated. I saw him blank away certain games. I saw him fumble on the goal line twice, separate games, one season. I've seen a lot of that out of Deshaun Watson. I don't know. Flacco is not the long-term answer. The dude's 38 years old, but it is fun to see an organization that said screw you to women by signing Deshaun Watson to the biggest quarterback contract ever at the time. actually win games with a guy who's the least paid starting quarterback in the NFL. It's funny how life works. All right. I'm tired of all of you. I don't care whether it's Jerry Jones. I don't care whether it's Stephen A. Smith. I don't care what fat guy is on my television on any of the networks telling me about the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are good, Aaron. Our executive man in charge, Aaron, is I'm going to say Commanders fan, but he's a Redskins fan at heart. So you hate the Cowboys. The text came in last night around 10-ish. Please don't tell me the Cowboys are good. I had sat on my dupayage. Last night, I had more energy than any human being alive. I just couldn't sleep. So I'm watching this whole game. Now, I had bet because the sack man told me to. Cowboys -2.5 in the first half. Ching. Cowboys game -3.5. Cha-ching. So I had vested interest. But the fact of the matter is this. I'm watching the Cowboys, and I'm saying to myself, no, Cowboys are good. And I'm going to tell you why they're good, and you're not going to hear this from anybody else. Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is the what's the right word? Modern player. Why is he the anti-modern player? Well, remember when Deebo Samuels was mad because he had to run inside and outside and catch passes? And he got a new contract. He wanted a new contract, but he was a little batch. Go to parties, hold up signs. I was stupid. You know what Tony Pollard does? All of that. Now, these numbers aren't going to be great, but I don't care. I don't care what these numbers say. I watch for my own self. 16 carries, 60 yards. Okay. Hey, look, that's not horrible. That's not great. 7 catches, 37 yards. Now, that's not great. So the guy had himself a 23-touch day. But I'm telling you, every time they needed a first down carry to set up 5, 6, 7 yards. Yards after contact, fantastic. Stayed inbounds and gained extra yards. And this tight end, Jake Ferguson, can play. Like really, really play. And Colts fans, I don't know what the hell our guy, Chris Ballard, was thinking. Well, I do. He just wanted to get rid of Stephon Gilmore because Stephon Gilmore wanted out. But getting rid of Stephon Gilmore for a 5th-round pick, Colts, you better get Robert Mathis with that 5th-round pick. Mathis was a 5th-round pick that's probably going in the Hall of Fame, the master of the strip sack. You gave up Stephon Gilmore, who went nose to nose, chest to chest, eyeball to eyeball, smack to smack with A.J. Brown. Now, Brown had 9 catches, but I don't care. Gilmore made people fumble. Gilmore was right there. And I give Mike and Collingsworth credit. They kept talking about him because they were right. And the Colts gave that guy up for a 5th-round pick. I got a headache. Chickapesta, I got a headache. That dude. So get off the Dallas Cowboys. I don't want to hear about the Dallas Cowboys. Here's the deal with the Dallas Cowboys. They may lose because teams lose, but they are damn good. All right. When is offsides not offsides? Apparently, offsides is not offsides when the Kansas City Chiefs go offsides in the last play of the game or one of the last plays of the game on a ridiculously great touchdown where Travis Kelce catches it, runs, throws it back, boom, touchdown. Well, that Toney kid, Kadarius Toney. Remember when Kadarius Toney, former 1st-round pick out of Florida, came over from the Giants and everybody said it was a great move? And I said it was a great move. Hell, get more speed. The need for speed, baby. Well, Kadarius Toney decided that he was going to not line up properly. I'm the wide receiver. I look down, I see the ball. You've been being a wide receiver since you were a little kid, I assume. You know to line up behind the ball. He didn't line up behind the ball. And you know what happened? Bottom of the screen, bottom right. I think NBC goes, or maybe one of the networks goes with the thing in the middle of the screen right there, that yellow flag. I watched the play. I jumped out of my seat. I went, holy hell. And I looked for it. And there it was, the yellow flag. Toney, about 6 inches offside. Did it affect the play? No. But here's the deal. The Chiefs are going nuts. This is bad for football. Ridiculous is what Andy Reid said. Pat Mahomes, this is the worst effing call I've ever seen. He wanted a piece of referees. He said it was a travesty. It's going to hurt Travis Kelce going to the Hall of Fame. He threw it all out. The only thing they didn't throw out is the name, rank, and serial number of the referee that called the offside. It's the only thing they didn't get. All right. Okay. But guess what? You got to have rules. I mean, that's the easiest rule in football. Here's the line of scrimmage. Right here. Line up behind it. Look, there's the ball. Line up behind it. I mean, okay, so you're just supposed to ignore the rule? Like the NBA has become a shell of itself because they've ignored all the travel. Like basketball people are like, man, these dudes take 15 steps. These dudes do all, and nothing's ever caught. You can't just ignore the rules because it's a great play. You can't just ignore something obvious. Now, look, if there's something in the middle of a line of scrimmage and you don't know what you actually saw, yeah, you ignore that. But a dude lined up right there. A dude lined up right here, right in front of the official on the line where the official couldn't even see the ball. And everybody's sitting here whining that, oh, man, bad call, horrible call. What? That's not a bad call, horrible call. It's the right call at the right time. And the time, you got to have rules. What? We don't have rules? Well, what rules? You know, here's what I would say to all of you. I'm going to go to YouTube chat on this because I'm sure somebody's arguing with me here. But honest to God, what rule do we not want to be called? Last week, they didn't call pass interference. Horrible non-call. Horrible. Keith M. says, I know that rule playing sandlot football. Yes, we all know that rule. We all know that rule. Yeah, you line up, you check, referee will give you a thumbs up. I don't understand. Come on, Dan. Rules. Why would we have rules today? And yes, everyone, that's sarcasm. Dude was offsides. That's right, Scott. It's amazing to me. And then most people are going to go, Chiefs are right. It didn't affect the play. So what? You got, here it is. This is an easiest rule. I was listening last night. They said that rule is now being a point of emphasis. I think it was called once last year, 11 this year. And here's the other thing. And you know this is true. You know it is. You absolutely know it is. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always the same people. It's always the same people. Always. Not sometimes, always. It's always the same dudes that screw stuff up. And don't at me about it. You know it is. You know it is. Kadarius Toney was a pain in the ass over here with the Giants. He's over here. It's just a matter of time. Guys will clean themselves up. Guys will wash their backside a little bit. But it's always the same dudes. All right, before we go to break, and we get Chad Withrow on here to talk about these things. Did you see this? Let's go through this. Liz Magill, the smirking, nonsensical, evil president of Princeton or Penn, out. She gone. Let's hear why she is gone. Here are her comments where all she had to do was denounce genocide of Jewish kids on her campus. Here is Magill.
At Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. Magill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it is, if the
yes
speech
or
becomes,
no?
if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment. This is unacceptable, Ms. Magill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes.
Here's your scripted apology for that debacle. How do you just not say, absolutely, we will not tolerate it? Anybody participating in it will be subject to the law and kicked out of our school immediately. How do you not just say that? You do it if you say he, she, it, they, them. How do you not do that? All right, here is her apology.
There was a moment during yesterday's congressional hearing on anti-Semitism when I was asked if a call for the genocide of Jewish people on our campus would violate our policies. In that moment, I was focused on our university's longstanding policies aligned with the U.S. Constitution, which say that speech alone is not punishable. I was not focused on, but I should have been, the irrefutable fact that a call for genocide of Jewish people is a call for some of the most terrible violence human beings can perpetrate. It's evil, plain and simple. I want to be clear. A call for genocide of Jewish people is threatening, deeply so. It is intentionally meant to terrify a people who have been subjected to pogroms and hatred for centuries and were the victims of mass genocide in the Holocaust. In my view, it would be harassment or intimidation. For decades, under multiple Penn presidents and consistent with most universities, Penn's policies have been guided by the Constitution and the law. In today's world, where we are seeing signs of hate proliferating across our campus and our world in a way not seen in years, these policies need to be clarified and evaluated. Penn must initiate a serious and careful look at our policies, and Provost Jackson and I will immediately convene a process to do so. As president, I'm committed to a safe, secure, and supportive environment so all members of our community can thrive. We can and we will get this right. Thank you.
Yay, Rob, go fight, win. She gone. When is the presidents of MIT and Harvard going next? Chad Withrow joins us. Stay here.
What would you be willing to sacrifice for a Tennessee Vols championship?
My wife.
Your wife,
Never
okay.
up in a second.
I'd let you take my whole left foot. My whole left.
The whole left foot.
The entire thing. Take it off.
Can we go up to the knee?
Like, as long as I can use, like, not just below the knee. Below the knee.
A lot. A lot. It's been tough being a Tennessee fan since '98. I mean, I wouldn't give up like my firstborn or anything, but close to it.
I think your son said he was willing to sacrifice his entire left foot.
Well, he gave up his left foot. Well, I give up my right foot. We could that way hobble along. He'd have the left, I'd have the right. Well, first of all, where Tennessee beat Alabama 52-49 last year, I gave up a marriage for.
What do you think the punishment should be for Michigan and Jim Harbaugh?
Oh, God. They need a couple years of post, like, bowl game ban. Absolutely, without a question, if everything comes to fruition. And if they're giving information to South Carolina about Clemson and Tennessee from last year, I say you just disband the entire program.
Death penalty?
Get rid of them. Get rid of them. They don't deserve it.
Ohio State should beat them for the next 30 years in every sport.
I mean, that's even worse than not getting to compete in a national championship.
Yeah, but cheaters don't deserve to compete for a national championship, especially a guy like Harbaugh. Send him to the Bears so he can try and steal some signals there and see what happens to him then. I think they gave our signs to South Carolina last year. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's beyond that. It's beyond what they've even uncovered yet. They caused us to miss the Final Four last year by giving the signs. He should be fired. He should be fired.
Hey, welcome back. Chad Withrow, host of Hot Mic with Chad and Jonathan Hutton, our friend. Nice enough to spend Monday morning with us. Hey, a couple of things. You mentioned Frank Wycheck off air. A lot of people remember him, obviously, from the incredible play against the Buffalo Bills years ago, but he was a friend of yours. He was a guy you knew, and he passed away at 52 years old.
Yeah, really sad news. I got a text from a buddy yesterday morning, and then went to social media and saw where our mutual friend Paul Kowarski had the report. And I'm hearing guys back.
Yeah, hey guys, turn off your mic back there.
Yeah, I'm hearing a bunch of.
Yeah, me too. Go ahead. I think.
No, you're good. So no, I and then I went to online and saw where Paul Kowarski had the story and the write up and the report from the family. Really sad news. 52 years old. Frank Wycheck was a guy that when I started out in radio, I grew up watching Frank. He's only 11 years older than I am, but he felt so much older than that because as a kid, when the Titans moved to Nashville, that was my point of reference, was watching Steve McNair and Eddie George and Frank Wycheck. So to have a guy like that I grew up watching on TV be so nice to a 22-year-old kid starting out in radio has a huge impact on you. So I was always thankful to Frank for that. Never treated me with any disrespect. Was always very kind to me throughout the profession. Funny story, Dan, we've talked about how basketball coaches can be very paranoid about things. We would play in a noon pickup game at Vanderbilt University, and we got there early one time, and I played with Frank at it, and we showed up and met and walked in the gym, got there a little bit early, and Melanie Balcom, who was the women's basketball coach at Vandy, kicked us out of the gym because we were sitting there in the rafters watching her team practice before we got on the court. And I remember Frank turning to me and said, I guess she's not a football fan. I guess she's not a Titans fan or didn't watch the Music City Miracle that she's kicking me, Frank Wycheck, out of the gym. Of course, joking about it, but we walked out, tail between our legs. And that was Frank. Great sense of humor. Really good dude. I feel for his daughters, his grandkids. I believe he had moved to Chattanooga to be closer to his grandchildren just this past summer. So all very tragic and sad. And Frank was always a friend to anyone who met him. And I think that's what most people remember about him.
Yeah, man. I saw that. I thought this can't be, but it is. And Titans go tonight. Frank wasn't with the broadcast team anymore, if I'm correct, right? He was a broadcaster for them. What do we expect out of the Titans tonight?
In terms of a tribute, I think that probably they'll say something on the broadcast, and it's in Miami, so
yeah,
the Dolphins will probably address it in some way or a moment of silence, something. But Frank's one of the three biggest faces of the franchise. When they had their Ring of Honor, they inducted Steve McNair, Eddie George, and Frank Wycheck at the same time in 2008. So obviously a big part of the franchise. In terms of the game tonight, Dan, you've got the Bears winning yesterday. You've got some other teams who are bad winning games. Titans need to lose out. Titans need a top 3 or 4 draft pick. I mean, they really do. I don't see them. They're not going to be favored in any games left this season. They're a 2-touchdown underdog tonight in Miami. The last thing the Titans need to do at this point is mess around and win a game. Now, I think the best case scenario is Will Levis looks really good and they lose in a shootout to the Dolphins, where you start to feel better about Will Levis as a starting quarterback. But they don't need to win games. And I'm never for tanking or going out and trying to lose. The players should never do that. The coaches aren't going to do that. But from a Titan fan perspective, if you're watching this game, you need this team to go draft Marvin Harrison Jr. You need an impact player right away. You need a top 3 or 4 pick. So I think the Titans are left with probably deep down kind of hoping they lose out to get the best draft position possible.
What did you think of Jayden Daniels winning the Heisman?
Look, from a statistical standpoint, I get it. The passing yards, the 50 touchdowns. I think he had over 1,100 rushing yards, and I think Michael Penix Jr. had minus 26 on the season. But Michael Penix Jr. is the Heisman Trophy winner to me. And look, the Heisman Trophy, it's the most outstanding player, the best player in college football. Well, we're not giving it to an offensive lineman. We're not giving it to Brock Bowers, who I think, without the injury, probably the best overall player at his position, best player in college football. it goes to a quarterback, a running back, occasionally a receiver, and that's who gets the award. And I just thought we look so much at the Heisman for stories and big moments, and Michael Penix Jr. had more of those throughout the year. His team was undefeated. I get that a team with 3 losses doesn't exclude a player on that team from winning the Heisman, and this is not an anti-Jayden Daniels stance with me, but I don't have a vote. I would have voted Michael Penix Jr. I felt like it was kind of a slam dunk, quite frankly. I know Vegas didn't feel that way, but after they beat Oregon for a second time and he had big moments in that game, I love the kid showing up with the coat with on the inseam of the coat, every player's name, every teammate, every coach on the Washington team's name written out. I think Michael Penix Jr. is everything the Heisman Trophy is about. I thought the story of Washington this year would carry the day. We've seen it countless times where the best player on the best team wins, not always the best statistical player. And this year, the voters decided to get it to the guy with the best stats, a guy who lost 3 games, a guy who wasn't great, quite frankly, in their biggest game of the year against Florida State. And they gave it to Jayden Daniels, and he had a great year. I mean, he's a good story too, but I would have voted for Michael Penix Jr. I thought he was the best story. I thought he was the best player in college football. I thought what he did for Washington with his accuracy and the way he ran that offense, I don't know that there's anyone else that would have led them to an undefeated record this year because he was so key for that team. I wish he would have won it.
Yeah, we're sitting here at Indiana. Kalen DeBoer was on campus as the offense coordinator. Penix was the quarterback. And well, now they're at Washington. They're playing for a national championship. So, hey, I mean, what the hell? Good for them.
Our alma maters, by the way, had a piece of Michael Penix Jr. Penix was originally committed and was going to sign with Tennessee.
That's right.
And then when Jeremy Pruitt took over, he didn't like him. So he ran him off. And then he ends up going to Indiana. So both of our teams could have had a shot at the guy who I think won the Heisman.
Yeah, I remember when he was playing at Indiana, guys were saying, yeah, he wasn't good enough for Tennessee. I thought, man, Tennessee must have Peyton Manning then because that dude was good. Penix was too skinny and he kept getting hurt, okay. But you knew eventually he wasn't going to be too skinny. You knew eventually he's going to be in the weight room and food, all that stuff. But damn, hey, Ohtani, we're going to put up the numbers, I think, of what he makes per second, which is $2 a second, 70 million a year. All right, it was almost like the Dodgers said, all right, let's just get serious here. We're going to skip the 500 and 600 million range. We're just going to go to 7 and eliminate all this. Quit. Let's go. Forget about all the crap.
You're paying for 2 top players in baseball. That's the way you got to view the signing, right? If you're getting Shohei Ohtani, you're saying we're getting maybe the top starting pitcher in the game. And I know he's going to have to recover this year from the Tommy John surgery, but we're getting maybe the top starting pitcher and the top slugger in the game. So what is that worth to you? What does that cost? Because you're not just paying for 1 player, you're really paying for 2 when you sign him. And that's the way they viewed it. And Dan, it does feel like, you bring a guy in on an official visit and you say, what's it going to take to get you to not take any more visits? What's it going to take to get you to sign right now to come to this place? I feel like the Dodgers just brought him across town and said, is it 700 million? Okay, we can do that. We can cut that check. We're going to make this happen. I don't know how deep the other teams were into it. Braves, Blue Jays, anyone else mentioned in pursuit of him. But it does feel like the Dodgers just came with an offer that wasn't going to be matched. He wanted to stay in the city of Los Angeles, and it made it pretty easy. And there wasn't a lot of drama because Ohtani didn't want the drama, didn't want coverage to go along with this, didn't want to turn it into a media spectacle. But I don't know that there was much drama with it. I think it was a pretty cut and dry decision for him. The Dodgers spend a ton of money, but they get their guy. And now the Dodgers are the World Series favorites, no doubt about it.
5.83 a month, 1.45 a week, $207,000 a day, $8,630 an hour, which again is more than my divorce attorney, $143 a minute, and $2.39 every second of this contract. I got to tell you, there are 2 people having a great week, Ohtani and his agent. I mean, damn. How about them?
You should have stuck with baseball. I know you were a baseball player at Indiana also. This is a sign you should have stuck with that sport. My goodness. And are we ever – here's my question for Ohtani. he's such a unicorn with the pitching ability and the hitting ability. But every great athlete anyone's ever known that played baseball growing up, he was the pitcher on the team, and he was usually the best pitcher, and a lot of times it was also the best hitter. Are we now going to see a trend of some players that are able to do both? Is this gonna spawn another Ohtani, whether it be another Japanese player coming over or an American player or someone from Latin America that becomes that two-way guy that is a great pitcher for a team and a great slugger when he's not pitching? I do wonder if this is going to start something else. The way Steph Curry started getting everyone shooting threes from 7 feet behind the three-point line, I wonder if now we're going to see another Ohtani at some point because there's some kid watching him and thinking, you know what, I'm good enough to do that, and maybe one day he will.
Yeah, every kid always wanted to do that. I mean, every single kid alive, and maybe we will. All right, I know, like Purdue basketball, at least in Indiana, the Dallas Cowboys, we have to wait until the postseason, everybody tells me. And I get it, I do. But I'm watching the Cowboys last night, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a damn good football team. This is just a really good, well put together football team.
That stat they put up on the screen last night on Sunday Night Football of Micah Parsons and the amount of sacks in his first 3 seasons, and it's a list of 2 that have done it. It's him and Reggie White. And as a Tennessee guy, I thought that's pretty good company right there. There's 2 guys that have been able to accomplish that. There was a play where he takes Lane Johnson, who's maybe the best offensive lineman in football, and drives him, I think you know what we're talking about there, drives him right back into Jalen Hurts, and then with his right hand wraps up Jalen Hurts and almost takes the ball from him all in one motion. And I'm thinking, this guy is unreal. You don't see – it's rare to see a guy who would – most people watching football, unless you're a lineman, you're watching the ball. You're not watching line play right away. It's rare to see a guy that takes your eyes off the ball and you're watching the dude that got the amazing jump off the snap every time. And when Parsons rushes the passer, I find my eyes averting and watching him because he's that much of a difference maker watching the game. I'm super impressed with him. This Cowboys team, spot the weakness right now. They don't have one from a roster standpoint. I could say the same about the 49ers. I could have said the same about the Eagles before this 2-game swoon here, but I think all 3 of those rosters are the best in football. I don't think there's anyone in the AFC that has that depth of roster that you see with those top 3 teams in the NFC. It's going to be fun when we get to the NFC side of the playoffs. And yeah, I mean, right now, if you're pointing to teams that look like they could win the Super Bowl or maybe even should, I think the Cowboys are right towards the top of that list.
You know, about 6-7 years ago, I was watching film with Urban, and he's like, don't watch, because in basketball, I never watched the ball. I never watched the ball, never. I started only watching the line. I don't watch the ball in football. I pick up the ball after I see. So I always watch the line. And I could not, and this happens in basketball once in a while, where I can't stop watching one particular player off the ball, that kind of thing. I could not stop watching Micah Parsons. I did not even know where the ball was half the time, but I just kept watching Parsons. And Chad, honest to God, if he took a play off, I missed it. Like if he didn't go in, around, spin, inside, pull rush, read a play, I thought that guy went 1,000% of the time. It was unbelievable.
And it's not just not taking the play off. I can't spot a time watching him play where he's not affecting things in one way or another. He's not always getting to the quarterback. He's not always making the tackle, but there has to be so much special interest applied to him with the opponent that he's always affecting things with how good he is. It really is incredible. That one play really stuck out in my mind last night because rarely do you see a Lane Johnson get bull rushed to that extent. And then a guy that's able to make a play on someone as strong as Jalen Hurts. You're not making a lot of one-handed plays on Jalen Hurts, and he locked him up around the right tackle and is grabbing the ball from him, and all Hurts could do is try to go down before he stripped it from him on that play. Remarkable to watch that dude play.
You know, for Lane Johnson, it was right after they had talked about him being like the man of the year and all that stuff. So it was like, here's this great guy, but boom, he just gets the crap beat out of him. All right, my man, I appreciate you. Thanks, Chad. Thanks for coming on.
Dan, always a great time, man. Have a great rest of the show.
Man, Chad is so right. Check him out 3 to 6 every day on the OutKick Network Hot Mic, and they're terrific. We want to hear from you. Hey, fellas, I think Gritty, there's Hot Mic right there, 2 studs. Hey, I think Gritty got the sad out. Indiana fans, I didn't get to it yet, but I'm going to get to it coming up here in about 15 minutes. Indiana basketball fans, get the sad out, man. Call us. Just give us a call, 929-687-3941, OutKick Dakich at gmail.com. We'll read some emails today, but it's time. You got to get the sad out. Nate Boyer, former U.S. Army Green Beret, Texas long snapper, world champion. He's going to join us next.
Victoria's Secret used to be sexy. On that note, let's talk about Victoria's Secret, because we continually talk about saving women's spaces, their sports leagues, their locker rooms, but we've never actually talked about their dressing rooms in retail stores. Well, now we also are getting the opportunity to talk about that one, because the other day, according to an article by Newsweek, a trans woman started complaining on social media that Victoria's Secret mistreated them because they wanted to use a dressing room in one of their stores. So the trans person tweeted out this, quote, "I was trying to find a cute bra at Victoria's Secret, and they made me wait until every cis woman left the dressing rooms before I could go into one of them. They even made other cis women wait until I had my turn, so no cis woman would have to be in any of the 5 other rooms." Obviously, she's meaning at the same time. So let's just examine this for what it's worth. A biological man, right, was trying on a cute bra. Why? I don't know, because if you were to see the picture of this trans person, there's nothing for the bra to cover, that I can tell at least. I'm not sure why you'd want to wear a bra, because as a woman, I can tell you that bras are not comfortable, and a woman looks forward to wearing a bra. So it's very puzzling why someone would go to all of the trouble to try to find a cute bra. But that's just me talking. Anyways, they were forced to wait by sales associates in order to, of course, protect the privacy of all the other actual women who are using the same space. And to which I say, cry me a river, right?
It is our absolute honor to have Nate Boyer on with us, former Green Beret, former long snapper at Texas. Texas is in the college football playoff.
Let's go.
NFL. All right, let's get right to this. Let's get right to Texas, because everybody's always proud of their school. You know what? I think, this is what I've said, I think Texas is the hottest team in college football right now.
I hope you're right. I mean, I agree. We're definitely playing like it. And it's funny, like you look a few weeks back, I guess 6-7 weeks back, that loss to Oklahoma. It was a great game, but they beat us in the end. We beat them pretty bad last year, and those games are always, it's tough to win 2 in a row in that series either way. But I think we kind of had to lose that game, because from there, we did not play great the next few weeks, but we won. We finished. And then these last 3 or 4, it's been like a different team. The defense is dominant. The offense is stacking up points like we haven't in the past. So we're streaking right now. Obviously, we'll see what happens, but I'm excited.
I'm telling you, I try to watch, everybody's debating who should be in, who shouldn't be in. And I'm watching the last few weeks, and they're just crushing people. And I go, look, if you want the best teams in, I don't give a damn whether somebody went undefeated. Whatever you want to do, this team is playing the best. Let me ask you this. You got Ewers playing really well. You got Arch Manning sitting there. Yeah. What do you think ultimately happens here? What do you think happens with Arch Manning?
I think he's going to stay, and I think he should. I think he should stay and back up Quinn next year, because I think Quinn's going to stay. I don't know, but I imagine. I think he should back up Quinn next year and kind of be the true backup. This year he actually wasn't. They were going to redshirt him, and then as the year went on, the last couple of games they did throw him in, for the last few series here and there. But I think he should be that true backup. I think there's still, in my opinion, and it's not a limited knowledge, but I think he still could use another year to develop. And the way things are going now with first of all, the NIL money, kid's probably making $1 million to be a backup in college football. Like, okay, thank you. And then he's already got the pedigree. He's gonna have the potential to be great anyway. If he only plays 1 year at the college level, good for him. Less dings. And he goes out there and has a healthier body for the NFL. And if he can show it in that one season that he's got what it takes, kind of like a Trevor Lawrence sort of thing. I guess Trevor probably played 2 full years, but either way, you don't need to. Joe Burrow is a great example. You don't need to play, that 3 or 4 years of college football to show them what you got. And if with the money right now that they're making from this NIL stuff, like that's what I would do.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where Ewers is a little bit underrated. He must be damn good to keep a Manning with all that hype and all that money on the bench. I mean, people don't, I get fascinated by things because we so focus on the name, but Ewers must be a damn good quarterback, man.
I think he's a pretty good leader too. And, he has kind of an odd release, and that's that. I guess some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL these days have odd releases. So you can't really say much about that now, but it feels a little low and it's a little bit different, but he throws a good ball. He makes good decisions. He's gotten better every year, like a lot better. And he's just, he's not afraid to stick his head in there. He just does all those things that when you look at the rest of the team, like they want to follow something like that. And he may not, his self-admittedly, he may not be the most articulate dude in the world. He's not going to have the great rah-rah speech maybe, but actions speak louder anyway. And, he's all about that. So I think that's a lot of it, but you're right. I mean, he was the #1 high school recruit at quarterback out of college. So, there is that.
Yeah, he made $1 million as a backup at Ohio State, they tell me. So, I mean, it's not like these guys aren't getting fat. Anyway, it's really fascinating to me. Keeping a Manning on the bench in this day and age tells me that you got a damn good football team with a damn good quarterback. All right, let's get into some serious stuff here. Your organization, MVP, Merging Vets and Players, you're trying to help retired players and veterans in their return to civilian life. Now, we just saw this the other day, 2 days ago. Frank Wycheck, just one of the all-time greats with the Titans, CTE. A lot of people are talking. He was always worried about it. He fell in his home. A lot of these players and veterans, I'm sure, too proud to admit they might have a problem. I'm not saying that's what happened with Frank Wycheck. I'm just saying that he was concerned about it. And I think most guys are, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, what's the narrative, when you're in training, and it makes sense, when you're in training. I was in the special forces, so showing any weakness, it's not something you want to do. They always say, suck it up and drive on. Asking a player, are you hurt or are you injured? Like, what's the difference? And understanding that, okay, I'm a little banged up, but like I can still play. At the same time, with all of that, where there's no place on the battlefield or really even on the ball field to kind of take that moment and assess where you're at mental health wise or whatever. But there is a place for that, and there's a time for that. And it's not really, spoken about within those cultures as much as it should be, at least in the past. And if you look way back, even like the Spartans had like mandatory grieving period when they came back from battle, because they knew, look, we got to talk about this stuff. Like we experience these things. They're tough. They're traumatic. They're, intense. They're not normal. We're going to have probably maybe a normal response that might not seem normal to society to this, thinking of things like post-traumatic stress. Like that is a normal response for if you experience something traumatic, like you should have stress about it, something triggers that. That's quite normal. That's not a bad thing, but we got to get that out there. We got to talk about it. And these vets and athletes, they're kind of heroes to each other. They look up to each other. I mean, I know for me, when I was deployed, watching football, man, that was my escape. Like I couldn't wait to just go to the man cave after a mission and like tune it off and do that. And you get around some of these athletes and teams, man, they get vets there or current active duty at their practices, at their, in the locker room, a chance to speak to the team. And these guys are, they're picking that veteran's brain. They want to hear about, what is that like to go through what you went through on that deployment, the day to day, like, how did you stay sharp? How did you not get complacent? They're curious because they want to be better, and it's just that kind of mutual respect that's it's really cool to see come alive. And when they lose a uniform and they struggle with the transition often, and they're young, 20s, 30s, a lot of life left, a lot left in the tank, and a lot of promise and possibility for the future, but we don't always feel that way. We feel like, oh, I just got cut, I failed, I suck, I'm done, I can't be on the team anymore in special forces because I'm not as good as I used to be. I'm a little banged up or whatever. And finding a place for all of us and having people that have been through what you've been through that can help remind you of what you're capable of. You can go chase whatever you want to do next. And we need you out there. We need leaders like that in the world today, in the country today, that have been through some stuff, and have been in that spotlight and had the pressure and the responsibility and survived it.
Yeah. And, I think people I know people all the time. They think it's like, you're playing cops and robbers or army and you go do your thing and then you forget about it. I mean, I can only imagine the stuff that you've seen. I can only imagine like what you've seen, and then you got to deal with it because now all of a sudden you're living in a neighborhood or you got a wife and you got kids and it's 1,000% different environment, but it's in your brain. It's what you've seen.
Totally. No, I mean, you get it. Being an athlete, I mean, it's, of course, we would never compare war to playing sports. That's not what we talk about at MVP. And we make that very clear. But at the same time, like, we've got to find ways for our veteran community, our law enforcement community, these people that, work and live in very dangerous environments, to be able to relate to people that do other things, that have other professions, but that also look up to them, respect them, and want to help them with that next thing. Because, I mean, you also look at the other side of it, those that do kind of hit that ground running and transition very well, tons of CEOs, entrepreneurs, like people doing incredible things, making a big difference in the world. And it's wild to see that, how sometimes that happens. And then other times, some of our greatest, just the complete opposite. They shut down and feel like they go in the hole. And I just don't want to, I'm not worth a damn anymore. You know what I mean? I peaked.
Yeah.
I peaked and it's over. So what, I'm worthless. And it's like, no, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
That's the exact opposite. You're the best, you're the bravest, you're the smartest, and you're the toughest, and you just got to figure it out. MVP's the movie that kind of goes through all this. You get a lot of guys, we were talking off air, you got a lot of guys that were enthusiastic, a lot of Hall of Fame athletes that were enthusiastic and participating.
Yeah. So, we started merging vets and players. We started the program, the charity, 8 years ago. And we just had our 8th anniversary. We're in 8 cities, ironically, around the country too. And we're growing, which is awesome. We meet up in the gym weekly. We train for 45 minutes or so, and then we huddle up and it's open forum, just peer-to-peer coaching. We just we recreate that locker room really. And we just, talk each other through stuff. We give each other crap. We want them to feel, we want us all to feel like we're still in that environment. So the movie is really about how that started. And every veteran portrayed on screen. I directed it. It was my first time directing, first movie I made. I want to make a lot more, but we had every veteran portrayed on screen is played by an actual veteran. Most of the folks behind the camera were vets and athletes. All the department heads, except for the cinematographer, were. And then people like Randy Couture and Tony Gonzalez and Jay Glazer and Michael Strahan and Howie Long have a cameo. All these folks came together and they're playing themselves. They're playing versions of themselves and kind of telling their own stories about that transition. It's not a documentary or anything like that, but the way that it was sort of laid out was like, people always talk about authenticity this day and age. And I believe that. I think that's right. I think you should, if you're casting something, you should try to cast people that experience that. But that goes for, to me, like the veteran community as well. We're going to do all these, war movies and stuff like that. Let's make a concerted effort to involve us as much as possible if you want that story told correctly. And so I wanted to start there from that aspect. And then I quickly found I should have known this, but like how many talented, hardworking people who did live that life, who had that, experience before, and maybe they started a little late in this industry or whatever. And that goes for athletes as well. And they're good, and they're real. And so it turned into like, hey, here is the script, but why don't you just say whatever you want to say? Because you get it. You've been here. You live this life. You don't have to like create this character. You are the character. You are that person.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to watch. Showtime has it. Hey, last thing, Army beat Navy. Where you at with that?
Oh, I'm right here.
I know.
It got interesting though, didn't it?
Yes.
I honestly was about to flip it off when it was 17-3. I was like, all right, it's never a shootout score wise. It's usually a very good game and always tight, but man, it got close at the end. But I'll tell you what, I didn't go this year, but I've been to 6 of them. And I'm going again next year. It'll be back in DC next year. And if you haven't been, you have to find a way to go and get a ticket. And if you can't, you got to just watch it. And even watching it on TV is worth it, because the emotion in the stadium, the cadets and the midshipmen are going crazy. Just the history, the tradition. A player said it in the pregame last night, and I've heard it said before, like, it's the only game in the world where everybody on the field is willing to die for everybody watching at home and in the stands, and that's really special. And it matters to them. It's not just a game. It's not like, well, I'm in the military, this is just a game. No, it is everything to them. And it just shows how important sports is to our culture, how it is to the American fabric of like who we are. It is absolutely interwoven, and it's special, but I'm glad Army pulled it out. But even when they don't, it's so much bigger than that. But of course, always go Army, beat Navy.
Hey, my wife and I went last year. The sports information director at Navy's a good friend of mine, long time friend. And he said, all right, I'm going to give you the guide. I said, okay, what's the guide? He goes, I'm giving you these passes, but you got to be here like 2 or 3 hours. You got to watch the cadets march in. You have to. And then Sage Steele's father, who's a legend, and Sage and I are friends, and he's like, okay, who's that? He said, okay, that's the leader of the command. That's the leader of the whole thing. This was this little woman, girl, whatever, was leading the whole thing. And then up there's guys with flags telling everybody what to do. And then I talked to a kid from Indiana. I go, all right, he's on the football team, but he was hurt. I go, all right, let's talk real here. Because the cadets and all them come in the night before and they party like crazy in Philadelphia. I go, how many of these dudes are just hung over as hell out here marching, right? He goes, most of them. A great time.
I mean, for anybody, like if you like college football and you watch like the watching a band at halftime. I went to Texas, can't stand A&M, but I have to admit the Aggie marching band is amazing to watch. Like the organization of it, that is what the march on is before the game. When they walk in and they file into the stands, it is like so crisp and, perfectly orchestrated. And it's just like, it's amazing. But you like you said, it sucks because you missed the tailgating's fun too, but you got to go inside. You got to go in a couple hours early and watch all of that happen. Watch all the pregame festivities. That whole ceremony is unbelievable.
I can go tailgate in Indiana and watch my Hoosiers get their ass beat. I was going to sit right in there, and I was watching. That was the coolest event. I've been on national championship. It's the coolest event, start to finish. Even we get to sing last or we get to sing first, the winning team. I mean, it's just
sing second.
Sing second. That's it. Yep. Sing second. Yeah. That's hey Nate, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you, Dan. Thank you, brother.
I'm watching it. Lee and I are going to watch it tonight. It's MVP. It's on Showtime. Make sure that you get a chance to watch this. I can't wait. We want to hear from you. 929-687-3941. Thanks to former Green Beret and Texas Longhorn long snapper, and of course, NFL player Nate Boyer for coming on. All right, I got a few things to get to, including college basketball. I'm going to have I'm going to have my guy on. I'm going to have Bruce Pearl coming up here in about 20 minutes. But before that, let's get into some hoops talk. Our beloved Pacers went out to L.A. L.A. being Las Vegas. Championship game of the NBA in-season tournament. And here we are in Indy. We got all excited, right? We were like out of our minds. We had watch parties. They opened up Game Bridge. It was like this was an actual, conference final of 2000 or NBA final of Pacers against the Lakers in the NBA for the NBA championship. No, it really wasn't that, but it was still fun for us. 123, 109. The Lakers got it done. Zags went down. I haven't loved the Zags. Zags are all right. Zags are good. When I watch them play Purdue, I'm like, they're all right. Washington beat them. Arizona is the best team in college basketball. I'm watching them play Wisconsin. Wisconsin had some good wins. Wisconsin had nothing. In fact, I would argue the Big Ten stinks. I would argue the Big Ten is awful. I'm watching Wisconsin try to compete with what is, I guess, the number one team in the country. You take Purdue out of the Big Ten, which you can't because they're a big-time member of the Big Ten. Wisconsin stinks, at least compared to Arizona, or Arizona's great, at least compared to Wisconsin. I'm not sure which way I'm going to fly with this, but I got to tell you, that was a no-shotter. That was a no chance. Colorado crushes Miami. That was a shocker. Tad Boyle's a friend. Tad Boyle got her done. And then the big one in my mind, and we're not going to blame Aaron Spielberg. We're not blaming Aaron for this. No, Aaron gets past. Aaron texted me, said, hey, I was watching Indiana. They were up 5. Next thing you know, they're down 20. Indiana was up 10 or 12 early. And then Indiana did what football Indiana does. What is that? When they get punched in the mouth, they go away. Anytime over the last 127,000 years, Indiana football has had something go bad, they go away. And this is Indiana basketball. Indiana basketball has a bad thing, they go away. And that's what they did. And Bruce Pearl, the coach of Auburn, is going to join us now. He texts me and says, best we played. And Bruce Pearl was incredibly gracious about the fans of Indiana University who filled up the arena down there in hot Atlanta. But the fact of the matter is my Indiana Hoosiers, just when I think they're going to get good, and I do think they're going to get good, they're long, they're athletic. I mean, my God, they got everything you need except for heart. And then this is even dumber. Indiana fans, I said this in 2008 when I outlined what Indiana had to do to get back to winning games and get back to dominating. I said, one of the things you got to do is you got to dominate. It isn't the only thing. There are a ton of other things, but one of the things, you got to dominate Indianapolis at Christmas. What does that mean? That means like we used to have a Christmas tournament and it was in Indy. 4 teams would come in. People say we never lost in it, at least when I was there. I mean, we played Boston College in the final. We played Florida with 2 pros. I mean, we played all kind of really good teams. Ron Harper and his team from Miami came. We played really good Arizona State. And we dominate. Fans were excited. We sell the place out. Fans that couldn't get tickets could come. Well, Indiana played Harvard this year. You know who Purdue's playing coming up this weekend? Arizona. It's the non-conference game of the year. Arizona and Purdue in Indianapolis. While Indiana plays, I guess they're playing Kansas down in Assembly Hall, and that's great. That's a great game. And Indiana will probably win that game because Assembly Hall will be nuts. But you got to dominate Indy, man. You got to make people want to do and go to your games in Indianapolis. All right, speaking of things, stock up, stock down. Speaking of Purdue, Braden Smith, the point guard for Purdue, dropped 30 on Alabama. Now, here's the deal. Braden Smith was terrific. And Braden Smith actually, I think, is tough enough this year to answer his own questions. No, I do. I think he is. Last year, Zach Edey had to answer his own questions, and I said, this is going to come back to haunt it. You got to be an adult male when you're all Big Ten, as Braden Smith was as a freshman, and you got to be tough. And he wasn't tough enough when they got going against Fairleigh Dickinson, and Fairleigh Dickinson's guard kicked their ass. But he is now. Well, he's a sophomore. He should be. He's a little more seasoned. But boy, was he good. Boy, was he good in a big game. Alabama, think about this, made 19 threes in a game. And in the homecoming of Zach Edey's team, he had 30. Braden Smith had 30, and Purdue ended up getting a hard-fought win. Look, I know Purdue lost to Northwestern. That happens. But they ain't going to lose too many more. That's a tough team. No, that's a really, really, really tough team. All right, I'm going to give in. Stock up. Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield did Baker Mayfield things yesterday 2 different times. They came back. He got a field goal. They got a touchdown. He led the team down the field when they needed him most. That seems to be Baker Mayfield's MO. Baker Mayfield doesn't mind making the mistake that costs you or the touchdown that wins it for you. And that's a good thing. You know, they always say cornerbacks have to have short memories. Baseball players strike out twice, short memory. Get back in there, have a swing. Well, Baker Mayfield got a short memory. Baker Mayfield is one of those guys that is just going to fight, scratch, claw, and win. And it's fun to watch. I shouldn't say he's one of those guys that's going to win. He will win it for you. He will lose it for you. And either way, he's okay with the result. And that is a great way to be. Stock up. Stock up, Los Angeles Dodgers. Look, everybody else was sniffing around. Guys were saying Ohtani's on a plane to Toronto. Guys were saying, I know he's going to sign with the Cubs. Guess what? Dodgers said, how much you want? I want 10-year, $500 million. I tell you what, we're going to give you 10 years, $700 million. Let's get this thing done. Okay. The Dodgers understood who the Dodgers were and who the Dodgers are. Much like I talk about the Yankees under George Steinbrenner, understanding, look, we are the Yankees. We're going to act like the biggest city in the world. We're going to act like the financial center of the world. We're going to give a product on the field that accentuates that. So we're going to pay you. Let's go. It's exactly what the Dodgers did. And good for them, because let's be honest, it ain't our money. I don't have to worry about making the payment to Shohei Ohtani. I don't have to worry about if he bats .225 with 10 home runs and is a bust. That ain't on me. But I get to watch Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani in the same lineup. Now, if they bring Trevor Bauer back, I'll really be a fan. Stock down. Indiana basketball fans standards. Indiana basketball fans were coming at me the other day about, well, Indiana beat Purdue. Really? That's it? I like when Indiana beats Purdue. It's fun when Indiana beats Purdue. It's better when Indiana beats Purdue. But Indiana, I know Indiana hasn't won a national championship since 1987. I know Indiana's been to one Final Four since 1987, 2002. I understand all this. I understand that in the history of Indiana basketball, there's only been 11 Elite Eight or better teams. I get it. But I don't care. My standard, and guys that played standard for Indiana basketball, at least those of us that played under Bob Knight, is Indiana should compete for the Big Ten title and national championships. Indiana fans, well, they've lost their way. There aren't any really still alive that understand what Indiana was really about. And Indiana fans are just good with beating Purdue. All right. Yay, Rob. Go fight, win. Michigan State basketball is sitting here at 4-5, and Tom Izzo is threatening to play his son Steve over other guys, including McDonald's All-Americans. That tells me that Coach Izzo, who never really makes those kind of comments, is fed up with this group. He's not fed up with this group on the court. Fed up with this group. He's fed up with this group internally. Now, I have not talked to Coach Izzo about this. I don't like talking to my friends when they lose. I don't. I'm with you, win or tie. I say it to everybody. Dakich, you're a front runner. Of course. Why would I want to talk to you when you lose? All I'm going to hear is excuses. All I'm going to hear is crap. I don't need crap. I don't need excuses. You know what I need? I need friends that win. I need no more friends in my life that don't have a private plane. Jay Billis said that, and I thought it was great. No, I'm serious. Jay Billis, when he said that, he goes, Dan, I got to tell you, this private plane thing is freaking great. This private plane thing is unbelievable. I go, yeah? All right. I'm going to give you Michigan State's last 4 seasons. You ready? 15-13 in 2021, 9-11 in the Big Ten play-in game. 2022, 23-13, 11-9. They lost in the round of 32. 2023, last year, 21-13, 11-8. They lost in the Sweet 16. This year, 0-2 in the Big Ten, 4-5 overall, 63-44 overall, 31-30, 1-3 in the NCAA tournament. I don't know, man. I don't know. You know how people are. Hey, stock down Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is now claiming victim status. What? Hunter Biden, you can't claim victim status. I will not allow you to have victim status. You don't get victim status. The Republicans aren't trying to oust you to, quote, as Hunter Biden said, kill his dad. They're just simply saying, look, we're not going to have tiered justice. You're a criminal. You didn't pay child support, yet you paid millions on hookers, blow, and a variety of other things. Pay taxes, son. You got 9 indictments. 9 felony indictments, but Trump, but Trump, nothing. This is about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, I respect the fact that so much meth and crack is in you that your teeth went bad and you spent $60K, good for a dentist or an orthodontist or whoever the hell fixes the teeth. God bless them. They made a ton of scratch, added a new something on their house. But Hunter, baby, you ain't a victim here. You're a predator. You're a weirdo. You're dating your brother's ex-wife. The hell? Stock down. You got the dreaded stock down. I proclaim it. We'll be right back.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. What have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement, and today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke.
And we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged
You know, it's funny. I'm watching Indiana play Bruce Pearl's Auburn team, and Indiana gets off to a great start, but there was something there. I'm like, wait a second here. You know, sometimes early leads do last, but I'm thinking this is not because your team, even though you got down, you could see your team was pretty confident even early, it looked to me.
Hey, Dan, great to be with you, my friend. Hope you and the family are well. Man, what an opportunity for us, right? To play IU and all that means. You know, I coached at Southern Indiana for 9 years, and I was there when you were at Indiana. You know, I mean, it was. I understand how much basketball matters, and the following that the Hoosiers brought to Atlanta, man, it was a very special moment for us. But we withstood that early rush. I mean, they made 4 threes, Dan, in the first 3 minutes. They're averaging 3 makes a game. They made 4. My players are looking at me like, Coach, I thought you said they can't shoot it. Let's go, you know. So we panicked a little bit, but then we hung in there, and that's the best we played all year.
What does that mean to you? What best you played all year? You sent that text to me yesterday morning. What does that mean from your perspective?
You know, what it means is, first of all, I was excited to provide that environment for Auburn basketball. Like, first of all, you know how the Hoosiers travel, and you know how they also respect good basketball. So the Hoosier fans that went watched us play, and they admired how hard the kids played and how well we executed. I feel the same way when I go to Rupp, when I play against Kentucky. There's a responsibility to bring good basketball because they know the difference. And so I was glad that our fans got to kind of mingle with their fans in a big time environment. I won a national championship at Southern Indiana. National championships matter in Indiana in men's basketball. I don't care if it's high school. I don't care if it's AAU travel ball. I don't care if it's Division II. It don't matter. And so I'll always own that. So you better believe, yeah, it mattered a lot.
You know what I thought, Bruce? You know, I grew up in Northwest Indiana, Gary, where it's more Chicago than it is Indiana, but it's still Indiana in terms of basketball. And until I left and went to Bowling Green, which is a great spot, all that, I thought everybody cared about basketball that way because I didn't leave till I was 34. You know, I mean, my high school games were packed, college games in Indiana packed. I just thought that's what it was all across the country, Bruce.
You thought every high school gymnasium in the world was 7,000 seats where they dug this big, huge bowl and just put all these people in there. Look, it's like Friday Night Lights in Texas for football. It is. And every kid, every light pole had a basket or a hoop. Every backyard, didn't matter how big it was, every garage had a hoop on it. And so, look, I took that into the game for sure, you know, with how we wanted to play. And look, Indiana's they got some real good pieces. I mean, they got a really good front line. They got great size. They missed the guard. They missed the kid, that guard, Xavier Johnson. They missed him. Cups is going to be really good, but it's awful lot to ask for a freshman. And Galloway's just got to get to shooting it like he shot it a year ago. Indiana's they're still a really dangerous team if they could get a couple of those pieces going.
You know, you mentioned the guards. Your guards just, I mean, it was like voting in Chicago. It was early and often, man. It was like you guys got it going. And then I'm sitting there. I'm down here in Naples. My wife and I'm like, all right, we're getting out of here. We go to this little spot on the water. They got the game on, and these dudes are still making shots. It was like, Jesus. I mean,
yeah.
Is that your team?
Well, that's what our team can be. I mean, certainly that's what our team can be. And we had a couple of cold shooting days, before that game. But look, you got to be able to make open shots. I don't care what offense you run. Indiana's got such a dominating post game. Those guys have got to make open shots to open some things up, in the lane, for them. I love that voting early and often. And I always compliment the people in Fulton County to get 102% turnout. That's impressive. Just you got to take your hats off to those counties.
I always tell the story. People say there's no such thing as voter fraud. I go, are you crazy? One of my dad's friend was running for mayor of Gary, and he asked, or I think it was mayor of city council, and he came to our house and he said, hey, I want to register the empty lot between your house and my dad. We don't own it. So now, so.
Hey, Dan, I tell you, when I grew up, as a kid, man. And it was like when you got to be 18, you got to be a certain age to be able to vote. I mean, when I thought they checked my ID, I think they patted me down. I mean, there was more security over my vote. I like, look, this was something that I obviously had earned. Now, you know, you just you can go out there and they got boxes out there on the street, just like trash cans, right? You just go ahead and put this in the box, just anytime you want. Put as many of the boxes you'd like.
Oh, I didn't see this as a topic with you. There's a lot of topics we could cover. I do want to get into the travel aspect of it. You know, people think Auburn, they think basketball now, football obviously great, and the Iron Bowl was unbelievable, which it always is.
Yes.
But you mentioned off the air, your fans got to see on a neutral site a basketball program. Indiana travels, regardless of whether you think Indiana's great, not great, blue blood, whatever people want to say. Indiana's best, and the people come, they travel, they spend their money like Kentucky fans, and that's something great for Auburn fans to see. No?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was really good for Indiana fans to say, like, holy cow, Auburn travels. Now I know we're an hour and a half from Atlanta, but still, part of the deal is this. Remember how spring break was always the SEC tournament for Kentucky fans? Right. And the people that went to the SEC tournament weren't your season ticket holders at Rupp. It was the other people that couldn't get tickets to Rupp or couldn't get tickets to Assembly Hall. And so they traveled to the Big Ten tournament. That's what it's like at Auburn now. Every game is sold out at Neville Arena. You can't get a ticket to a home game. So if you're in, you know, the eastern part of the state of Alabama, we got a lot of alums in Georgia. Hey man, they're looking at that game. We're going up to Huntsville on Wednesday to play UNC Asheville. And, you know, there's a 6,000 seat building up there. It's sold out in a day. It's sold out for us to go up there and play. And part of the reason why we go to Atlanta, go to Birmingham is so that regionally I can sort of build that brand of our program. And now, you know, when you go on the road, you don't need fans, you need witnesses, right? You do. You need witnesses. And we had and it was a great environment in Atlanta for college basketball because of the way both teams turned out.
You know, it's funny. You made my point. I was saying about Indiana. When I laid out in 2008, when I was interim coach, and they asked me what should happen here, one of the things that I laid out was, look, you got to dominate Indianapolis in December, Christmas time, because Coach Knight used to have that tournament up there. And exactly what you said, fans that could not get tickets to Assembly Hall got tickets to those games, and that expands your fan base. And that's just something that I think you're brilliant for bringing. I don't think enough people think about those type of things for a team as you're trying to build and expand a program.
Well, you know, it's like playing Baylor in South Dakota. Everybody's like, why are you going to South Dakota to play Baylor? I said, because ESPN's coming, and I've got to do stuff to keep Auburn basketball relevant. We're an everything school. Yes, the SEC dominates in football, but we dominate in baseball. We dominate in women's sports. And so you got to try to come on the radio with you just so that I could stay. I got to be on OutKick just so I could keep Auburn basketball relevant. And all I'm trying to do is make you look good. Because, you know, back in the day, you told a few people that you thought I'd do a decent job coaching. And so I just go out. I knew that one there. I had to, for all the listeners there, I had to prove that you knew what you were talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've said you might be the best coach in college basketball, but, you know, I mean, because I tell people all the time, like, Bruce Pearl just wins. I don't give a damn. He won at Southern. He won at Milwaukee. He wins it here. I mean, he's just going to win. So just, you know, shut the hell up. That's usually my line with people now, Bruce. As I've gotten older, my line is just, hey, shut the hell up and just listen to what I have to say, right?
Right. And it's not a look. For me, it's about doing it with some consistency over a period of time. And we've not won big. But we've been relative. And you
went to the Final Four.
We did. We got to
at Auburn.
I know. But
who's the last Auburn team to go to the Final Four?
Well, there's never been a team from the state of Alabama to ever go to the Final Four.
That's what I'm saying.
Except Auburn. All right, let's talk about saving the world. How are you doing? Do you think we're going to get this thing turned around? Are we okay?
No, here's what I really wanted you on for.
What? 3
presidents, Harvard, MIT, and the defrocked one at Penn went on and made idiots of themselves, in my opinion. But here's my bigger question. You're on a college campus. Why did those presidents feel so uninclined to speak out for a specific question, the genocide of Jewish people. Why did they feel so intimidated or entitled to not just simply say, that shit ain't happening on our campus? If it happens on our campus, you're not only going to get tossed out of this freaking school, but the police, the FBI, whoever the hell needs to be involved is going to be involved. My question, though, is why do you think they could not say that, Bruce?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dan. And I think it's a complicated answer, but I would just simply boil it down to this. There's so much, there's a connection between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. They would like to be able to say that they're not anti-Semitic. They got nothing against the Jewish people, nothing against women, nothing against the LGBT community, nothing against African Americans, nothing against Islamophobia, nothing. But when it comes to Israel, way too many people around the world have bought into the idea that somehow the Jews stole the Palestinians' land. That's just not true. There were some that were displaced in wars that have taken place over so many years. But when our young people around the country want to protest free Palestine, why wouldn't you want to free an oppressed people? Why wouldn't you want to free them from an occupier? Why wouldn't you want to free them from oppression? Except it's not true. That's the fundamental thing. It is simply not true. Israel happened to be created after World War II, in part because of the Holocaust. And so that there would never be an atrocity again, like took place in the Holocaust, except it just took place on October 7th. But the truth of the matter is, the Jews were indigenous people to that land from the beginning of time, okay? And David ruled over that land, for about 75 years at one point. And so the bottom line is this: there are hardly any Jews living anywhere in the Middle East, but when you go to Israel, about half the people look Arabic. They're dark. They're people of color, okay? Because they fled annihilation throughout the Arab world in the late 1800s, early 1900s, before the state of Israel was even born, according to the United Nations. So we were there at the beginning. We got there before the state was created. And then once the state of Israel was created, the Arabs had an opportunity to live side by side in their own state. But they refused to, because they wouldn't live next door to the Jews. And people in this country can relate to that. There have been times in our country when people did not want to live next to the African-American community, or didn't want to live next to the Jewish community, or whatever. And there were issues there. That's been an issue in the Middle East. And I think that's what gives these presidents pause, because they just can't support Israel because they can't support apartheid or oppression. Last thing I'll say, there are 9 million people in Israel. There are 6 million Jews or about 3 million Arabs. That is not apartheid. There are no Jews living anywhere else in the Middle East, because if they were living there, they'd be dead. Okay? There aren't two sides to this question. There just aren't. I hate the death and I hate the destruction. But there's no place in the world like Israel that is surrounded by people that want to destroy her. And yet the world is saying, okay, ceasefire, stop. And it's somehow okay for the world to believe that Israel does not have a right to exist.
Bruce, do you anticipate, we saw the Penn president fired. Do you anticipate the other two fired?
Dan, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big boycott guy. I'm not. And I don't want to get into whether they should or shouldn't be fired, but I've not really gone hard calling for that. What they did was horrific and terrible and certainly justified. At the same time, that's not a battle that I want to fight. Look, part of anti-Semitism, here's why I say that, Dan. Part of anti-Semitism is they believe the Jews have so much power because of their money, they control things, like they can even get presidents fired. I would like to re-educate, okay, as opposed to simply just punish them. Because like what you said, what they said and what they weren't willing to say, replace the word Jew for women or African-American or anybody else. It's a no-brainer. You can't have but somehow it's okay for I would rather re-educate than just simply fire everybody that goes against us, because then that just adds to, see, that's what I told you. See, they're so powerful, they can even get the president of Penn fired.
Yeah. You're a Jewish man. You're very public. You're more political maybe than any, well, you are more political than any college coach I've ever seen. Do you has there been any pushback on you or your son from campus? I mean, because campuses are lively these days with hate, anti-Semitism. Have you felt it?
Well, no, I have not felt the anti-Semitism on our campus, and I'm grateful for it. And I've oftentimes publicly talked about how blessed we are to be here in the South. I'm a Jewish basketball coach in the Southeastern Conference. Come on. What a wonderful country we have. I'm grateful for this opportunity. And there's a balance. There's a balance between freedom of religion. There's a balance between freedom of speech. And yes, there are limitations. I'm a state employee. And so make sure you understand that here I am on your show. We're talking basketball. I've got to answer basketball questions because I'm Auburn's basketball coach, but I'm also a Jewish American, and I'm entitled to my views. And so therefore I'm speaking for me. I'm not speaking for Auburn. I'm not representing Auburn right now when I speak to you about these things. I do when I speak to you about basketball.
Hey, back to basketball for just a second. How do you feel? Last year you got, basketball's better in the NCAA because kids are older. You still feel that way? I mean, where are we with the game in college right now?
Yeah. Well, there's just so much on that, Dan. I do think that if you looked at the teams that got to the Final Four, Florida Atlantic and San Diego State, older teams, where success, the key is to get old and stay old. This is a great stat, Dan, and it's proving true this year as well. About 17 or 18% of the top 100 high school players that are living in the Power Five are averaging double-digit minutes and double-digit points. That means about 2 to 84% of the top 100 players that are in Power Five schools are not averaging double-digit minutes and double-digit points. You think that sits well with their families? They were top 100. Some of them were McDonald's All-Americans, but they all thought they're going to go to college. They all thought they were going to be one and done. And the reality is it's hard in the Power Five for a freshman. It's hard to do what Aiden Holloway did the other night for us against Indiana as a freshman guard. Pops is a terrific freshman guard, but it's hard for him to be a double-digit point and minute guy. So as a result, now we're not recruiting quite as many high school kids. Back in the day, you recruit 3 high school kids, maybe 1 transfer. Now it's 1 high school kid and 3 transfers. So what's happening is mid-major, your Conference USAs, your American, your Sun Belt, your Atlantic Suns, they're getting way better freshmen than they were getting before. And they're also, doing some of the work for us. And then look, where have I gotten my transfers? Florida Atlantic, Eastern Kentucky, Morehead State. I guess the only difference between me and some of the others is, I got a Division II kid. I got a JUCO. We're not a blue blood when it comes to recruiting, so we've not taken as many high major transfers as we have kids that maybe were overlooked and are hungry and humble and are blessed to be at this level.
Yeah, that's because you and your staff do. I've always said there's 2 guys I thought that evaluate better than anybody, you and Beeline. When Beeline was at Michigan, I thought Beeline, and I guess I should also say when he was at West Virginia, but I just think you guys evaluate players in 2 ways. One, got to be good enough, but 2, fit you, because you and John, but there's a lot of great guys that evaluate, but I've always thought you guys win at the highest level with the guys like Duncan Robinson that shows up all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Just guys that you're talking about, not from, I don't have to transfer from UCLA. In fact, I would be curious. You know what, Bruce? I'd be curious to know. Maybe I'm going to have someone look at this up. Be curious to know the success level of a guy that transferred high major to high major. Be interesting to know.
It would be. It would be. You know, one great example for us was Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler went to North Carolina, but he was sitting in there behind, 3 or 4 really great players who didn't play a lot as a freshman, and he went high major, and was great success. That'd be a great research project. My guess is less success than you think.
That's what I think.
There was a reason maybe why they didn't make it. Now, again, there's a chance to get older and better. Hey, look, Khalil Ware for Indiana. Dana Altman is one of the best coaches in college basketball at Oregon. He does a phenomenal job. But as a freshman, that young man didn't have his motor running. They may have been some guys on the roster that was a little older, a little better. He didn't play a ton at Oregon, whatever it was. Hey, Coach Woodson and his staff have him playing hard. They have him, protecting the rim. And he's made a really, really significant jump. Now he needs to continue as they head into the Big Ten. And look, the Hoosiers are 2-0 right now. They got wins against Maryland, a dominating win against Maryland, and then on the road at Michigan. You know how hard that is. That's obviously something to build on. Now the Kansas game, where's that Kansas game being played?
I said Assembly Hall. That'll be a tough game for Kansas.
Yeah. I'm rooting for, it is in this business now. Now you root for everybody you play against because Dan, college basketball is in a good spot. It really is. We've got to try to. I'm happy that our kids are benefiting from NIL because we've known. Dan, you've seen this now. This is one thing. You remember when you were playing, and you remember when the Hoosiers would get all the way to the Final Four. Do you remember some of the parents of some of the kids that didn't have a lot of money? And how they would take Greyhound buses cross country to try to foul you, get there the day of the game, stay at the YMC, and then what happened was you'd lose, and then they got to go get back on that bus. Okay, that was wrong back in the day when those parents couldn't afford to travel. Okay, now it's obviously the pendulum swift a little bit too far the other way, but I still think it's a real positive thing overall for these kids and their families to benefit. And I don't want them working at Subway. I want them owning 2 or 3 when they get out of school. At the same time, it is there are just, we need a few more guardrails so that everybody can benefit in a more fair way. The NCAA was way too slow on the trigger of recognizing they should have settled the O'Bannon case. They never should have gone to trial with that. They knew they had a losing hand, and we should have been compensating the student athletes earlier. Whether it be through annuities or through, certain funds to be able to allow them to benefit like coaches and universities have been able to benefit over the last 20 years.
Bruce, one of the things that even when I was a player, I remember going to the AD, they asked me about stuff. And I said, we went to the NCAA tournament and 4 of the kids on our team's parents couldn't afford to go. I said, and this is back in 1985. And I said, that's just wrong. And then I fast forward to when Andrew was at Ohio State. So I don't know what the year that was, 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And we're in Boise. And I remember, hey, where's so-and-so? I couldn't afford it. I'm like, that's 5 years ago. And I'm thinking, this has always been wrong. Always. And I remember Urban fighting like crazy for that when he was at Utah for the Liberty Bowl, back whatever many years. And they still don't pay for parents, right?
No, they don't. But I think now with the NIL being what it is, there's now enough money in the family to be able to get that taken care of. And you're right. It was wrong for a long time. It's better now. And we just got to kind of get a handle on it. But the state of the game is really good. I mean, look at all these non-conference matchups right now. I personally actually like the matchups in November, December in the non-conference, sometimes more than the in-conference play. In conference play, it's such a rock fight. I mean, everybody knows everybody. We know the tendencies. Everybody's so well scouted. I don't even think the basketball sometimes is pretty. It's harder to officiate, right? But these non-conference matchups in November, December, it's been great. And TV's benefited from it. And I think there's more interest in college basketball sooner than just March Madness now.
I agree. And I think I wish you'd play Indiana at Indiana and Indiana would play you at Auburn, though. I think those games are awesome. I think those games, now that I'm a fan, I'm not doing anything in it. I'll watch anything.
I'd go to Indiana first. If they wanted to do it again, I'd be happy to do it. It'd be great.
I figured you would.
It'd be an honor to play in Assembly Hall. You kidding me? It's been probably a dream of mine to be able to play there and know how loud it is and know what I'm up against, right? That would be like playing Indiana in Indiana. Was like when I played and I coached the USA team from Maccabi USA, and I played Israel in Israel. Man, it's first of all, I don't want Israel to lose at home ever, but I didn't mind them losing in basketball. And the three officials that I had when I played Israel in Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I was getting screwed, you know. But that's what I mean. That can happen sometimes.
Were they bringing gold, frankincense, and myrrh to the game for the other coach? I mean, what were they doing? Hey, man, tell Steven I said hello, and I thank you for coming on, my friend.
You too. Give my best to Andrew, and we'll see you later in the season. Hopefully we can keep winning, and you'll have me on again.
Yeah, keep rolling, man. I'll have you on whether you win or lose. I just like talking to you. You shitting me? Thanks, Bruce. That's Coach Bruce Pearl, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you what, it was a heck of a game. Their team just kept balling. They did. And from an Indiana side of it, the one thing I never felt like was Indiana could get back in the game. They were that good, and that makes college basketball a lot of fun. Here's where you can reach out to us. I just got a text from Kim Mulkey. So I guess we're going to have Kim Mulkey on the show at some point here because only the greats come on this show. Hey, by the way, breaking, Sterling and I are going to do 2 big brains. He just sent me some way to do it over YouTube. Hey, great day today. Thanks to everybody on our team, Nick and Ryan and Dylan, and of course, Aaron and Gary and Katie and Haley and Beth the Booker. Great stuff. We'll be right back at it tomorrow. All you on the YouTube chat, thank you as well.